Rosie, here's today's question. What do you want from Rutte, from Mark Rutte, from the NATO Secretary General? Do you want him to give you Tomahawks? Do you want him to send 200,000 troops here from the alliance? Do you want him to attack the Russian Federation, drop a nuclear bomb on them? Well, of course, you all want that, but that's not going to happen. NATO today is a complete fake. It's just a declarative story, a political structure, not a military one, first and foremost a political structure, where the main member of the North Atlantic Alliance is basically constantly threatening to leave this North Atlantic Alliance. And I'm talking about Ukraine's biggest partner, the United States of America. And another member of this North Atlantic Alliance is Hungary. It constantly stirs the waters and blocks all initiatives that are against Putin. That's how it is. Today I liked one comment on the Telegram channel Taras Riotic Reports. Well, what do you want from Stoltenberg? It's not his fault that he's in charge of such a NATO. One major member is threatening to leave. By the way, he said the same thing, right? And Hungary is sabotaging. Under Rutte, the Netherlands started helping us a lot. His government fostered this kind of attitude. Rutte, when it comes to Ukraine, is truly a representative of the people of Northern Europe. So what he can do, Rutte actually does. And in general, his speech in the Verkhovna Rada today, it is highly likely that this will be remembered throughout the annals of modern political history as one of the most remarkably ineffective and underwhelming public addresses ever delivered by a high-ranking official representative of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization Alliance at this particular level of international diplomacy. Yes, specifically of this level, among those who have ever spoken in the Verkhovna Rada. It seems to me that this lady's speech today was much stronger. This is, friends, the ambassador of the European Union in Kyiv. So what exactly did she do? Well, she took a very personal photo. This is Katerina Martinova we are talking about. She took a photo of herself while she was in her own private bathroom. Or maybe it was her bath, I don't really know for sure. It was the room where she currently lives in the city of Kyiv. And she wrote that she spent the night in the bathtub because of the missile attacks. Today, I slept in the bathtub again. And it was a very loud night. This, friends, is a diplomatic message. To Trump, to Rutte, to everyone in the world, and to the UN. The EU ambassador to Ukraine is once again saying that this is unbearable. Are we talking about negotiations now, or what are we talking about? I sleep in the bathtub. It was very loud. That's how it is in Kyiv. And of course, this is what matters, not Rutte's speech and his promises. You'll have planes flying and ships sailing at sea and ground forces supporting you when you sign the peace agreement, but that's not when you need it. When we sign the peace agreement, it's needed now, and that's why this photo today gives Volodymyr Zelensky the absolute right to say that after this night, we are changing our approach to negotiations. That's it. Tomorrow we start another round in Abu Dhabi. But we see how Russia is actually changing reality, talking about peace and about striving for peace. It launches more than 20 ballistic missiles there, just ballistic missiles, over 20. So what can we even talk about here if there are more than 20 of these missiles? Once again, the president emphasizes, look at this. As a matter of fact, the Russian army decided to take full advantage of the American proposal to put strikes on a temporary cessation of hostilities. Not for the purpose of supporting diplomacy, but rather to regroup, but simply to stockpile missiles and wait. For the coldest days of this year, when a significant part of Ukraine is experiencing temperatures of minus 20 degrees Celsius or lower. This is what, according to Volodymyr Zelensky, the Russian Federation wanted. And accordingly, Zelensky now frames the question as follows. We are now adjusting what we will do tomorrow for victory. And right on cue, there's an article on Ukrainska Pravda, where could these negotiations be redirected? Although, of course, the main topic of this piece is Budanov. Yes, a general in the office, as an intelligence officer, policeman, SBU officer, and brigade commander, are running the president's office. The main figure in this piece is Budanov and Budanov. Why am I mentioning this piece? Because it came out today, and today we can see such an excerpt there. Importantly, the authors write, after Budanov and Arakamia came in, the negotiation process changed. The nature of communication changed not only with the Americans, but also with Russia. Simultaneously with the changes in the Ukrainian delegation, Putin also replaced his negotiators. Now, instead of Medinsky and the rest of the so-called original Russian diplomats with their monologues about Rurik, the negotiations are being conducted by the military. And here is a quote from a source familiar with the course of the negotiations. Look, previously our side had to listen to hour-long sermons about who conquered whom and when. But now it's the military sitting there discussing concrete matters, mechanisms, withdrawals, guarantees, timelines, and so on. This is probably the key change that happened with Budanov's arrival. And now Zelensky's team says, let's adjust tomorrow's meeting after this missile strike. We'll just go ahead and adjust it because what's happening, friends, is quite bad. And this means that it's not us escalating, but it's actually Putin who is escalating. Where could it be adjusted to? Well, obviously, the Ukrainian president's gesture yesterday regarding the fact that Russia, in reality, had deliberately not targeted energy facilities until yesterday, and that everything that flew over, everything that hit, and everything the Ministry of Energy emphasized, yes, you heard I did a separate analysis and review about this, was all just a coincidence. But today, the president has already changed his mind. Now it's no longer just a coincidence. Well, of course, yesterday's gesture wasn't accidental. A diplomatic pass to Putin, like, look, did you agree on something with Trump over there? We cannot and will not simply choose to ignore the reality that perhaps some of your own servicemen or your army may have committed a very serious error. We are willing to remain patient and composed for the sake of our negotiations today, because no one is planning on canceling these talks, but they will definitely be significantly more difficult and considerably more demanding for everyone involved. Tomorrow, they will be much tougher. And the participation of the United States there is becoming key, not just as witnesses. I think Kushner should be there, and someone else should be there too. And there should be an answer for Donald Trump. Why? As the president said today, does Putin have 4 days a week instead of 7? Why was this ceasefire announced? Or, Mr. President, your request to Donald was not fulfilled. Why was it not fulfilled? Putin doesn't respect you, so let's do something to make him respect you. How will we do that? You want a compromise from Kyiv, fine, but what kind of compromise? Can the Russian Federation be trusted or not? You know, everything is turning upside down right now. If before, just yesterday, we were saying that a compromise was probably possible, today our rhetoric is completely different, completely different. Today, Emmanuel Macron is already commenting that he is now resuming dialogue with Putin, and preparations are underway for holding a phone conversation. He stated that the Russian Federation, here's a quote from Macron, look, that's not all. Against the backdrop of this, the European Union envoy Mark Rutte is a bit of an outlier there, and now there's Zelensky. Now Macron is not showing that the Russian Federation is ready for a real peace process. Something urgently needs to be done about this. And he says, I think, first of all, we continue to support Ukraine, which is being bombarded, living in cold conditions, facing attacks on the peaceful population and on Ukraine's energy infrastructure by Russia. This is unacceptable, and it demonstrates a lack of real willingness for peace negotiations. That's what Macron means. So Macron will call Putin, but what does he mean? Right now, he is being open, accusing the Russian Federation of sabotage. And do you know what he means? Let me explain it to you. There's a very interesting story. It's a piece that appeared today in the Financial Times, which concerns the wonderful topic of these 72 hours, the response to the aggression of the Russian Federation in the event it happens after a peace agreement is signed. Today, Trump confirms that we will withdraw from these agreements with the Russian Federation. Exactly 72 hours after the Russian Federation violates something there. And there will be military support, including that as well. There will be military support, including American support, even ground troops. Putin claims that no, he does not support this, but it will happen. And it seems to me the only plus, despite all the critical nature of the moment for our energy sector, 23 ballistic missiles. The heavy challenge with missiles for the Patriots, having to shoot all this down, and the freezing of entire thousands, that is households, these apartment buildings in Ukrainian cities. And the only good thing that can be taken from this, the only good thing is that now there is a complete turnaround regarding the fact that the presence of ground troops is an ultimate story. It's an ultimatum, because Putin simply doesn't understand any other way. He doesn't want to play by the rules, so now, openly, even Macron says that troops need to be here. The only asterisk to this story right now is that it will happen after peace is established. But it will happen. The Russian Federation, of course, will not be playing first fiddle here at all. And to wrap up, let me hit you with a wonderful story called Tomahawks. You know, I often talk about this. The topic of Tomahawks is actually not closed, not even close to being closed. And any opportunity that Putin gives is immediately used by the Republicans, what they call the hawkish wing. The hawkish wing. And that's great too. And today, there's yet another wonderful and beautiful reason to do it. Litzigrim writes, this post is appearing literally right now, as we speak. It's obvious that the pressure we're putting on Putin to force him to sit down at the negotiating table and stop the massive attacks against Ukraine isn't working. Litzigrim is the director of Donald Trump's ears, just so you understand. This is the person who has occupied Donald Trump's ears even long before his second term. He is a pillar, an inner voice, the closest advisor, and a very influential person for Donald Trump. And now he is telling this person that it's not enough, that it's not working. President Trump's idea to strike at buyers of Russian oil who support this war machine must be implemented decisively by the US and Europe. President Trump has already dealt a serious blow to Putin's economy by targeting oil companies and oil refineries. We and the case with India are a good example of how the situation can change. India now buys significantly less Russian oil. And finally, after this massive attack last night, he says, I would urge President Trump to begin the process of providing Ukraine with assistance. Missiles and ATACMS, which became a turning point from a military perspective. In the coming days and weeks, we must increase the pressure on Putin. Any negotiations that appear to excessively reward aggression will trigger catastrophic processes around the world. At the same time, the opposite is also true. If negotiations lead to the emergence of a free, strong, and independent Ukraine, even if it means making concessions, the world will become much more stable. Timing is crucial. Yes, if Ukraine makes concessions, it means. Gremsho says, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow in Abu Dhabi, Ukraine gives up Donbass, in return receives Tomahawks, foreign workforce, and Putin, accordingly, is satisfied with this extremely difficult compromise from Ukraine. But that's all. Well then, that is the current strategic plan as it appears to be, right now. Well, we'll see. It's just the Budanov factor. You have to understand,